Welcome to the Armstrong County Monthly Update. My name is Pat Fabian, Chairman of the Armstrong County Board of Commissioners. With me today is Commissioner George Scumai, Commissioner Jason Renshaw, and Armstrong County Jail Warden Philip Schaefer. We always start off by doing county news, and I'd like to report that the Armstrong County budget currently is on budget for the 2016 fiscal year. We recently just finished the first round of budget discussions with our department heads and elected officials. That process started on August 24th. I don't know, Commissioner Scumai or Commissioner Renshaw, if you'd care to comment on anything.
Well, I tell you, it also included all the agencies that we deal with too. We went through the budgets with them, and I think that was a very informative process. It was a good idea.
And George, you know, you being a chief clerk for the past 8 years, some of the comments I heard from department heads and elected officials throughout the process was that this is something that hasn't been done before. Can you, you know, elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, this was far more comprehensive, especially for the first round. Typically, the financial director would meet with the department heads and elected officials. Unfortunately, there were times when their schedules wouldn't even meet up, and they wouldn't even have that first opportunity to discuss things. So having everybody come in and being so comprehensive about that process, I think will benefit the county, and of course we're planning the second round to follow, which is something that previous boards typically did as their first round, so to speak.
I think it helps give us a chance to get a feel for a little bit, a little more. We met with everybody when we first came in. I think now too we can sit down with them and get a feel of the first round and hear what they have to say, take it back to the table, look at it, and then proceed with the second round. So I think it's a good thing for everybody.
The county vehicle policy was implemented on July 5th, 2016. Commissioner Renshaw, will you elaborate on that policy for our viewers? What was the premise behind that?
Well, we're looking at every aspect to save the county some money, so we just basically brought everybody in and said, hey, you know, just tell us, you know, why you need to take these vehicles home. And we heard what discussed with everybody, and we decided that, you know, there's some vehicles that don't need to be taken home, and some do and some don't. So we kind of, you know, stationed a lot of them. They're still available, but the employees can come in, take the vehicles out, and then proceed on with their duties. So some of the ones are more special that we have to allow for a take-home vehicle, but we eliminated that as much as we could. But we also have some mileage logs and implemented a more, I guess, document trail for those vehicles. So I think that aspect has been resolved and is more efficient and effective.
Great, thank you. Also, something that the Board of Commissioners is looking at is our county assets, and specifically those assets and properties that we currently have on the books. George, you know, this is something that's come up in the town hall meetings. You know, why don't you commissioners do something about these assets that you have, and why do you own them? Kind of brief our viewers on what we're looking to hopefully achieve down the road as we look through these properties that we currently own.
We've identified through a process of evaluation some of the properties that we currently are responsible for that we don't necessarily need to be. To save the county taxpayers' dollars as far as the maintenance and upkeep of those facilities, and in most cases they're aging facilities. And in some cases, we're talking about just plots of land that are in the county coffers that have been there for, well, quite a period of time and not earning us anything or doing anything for the county. I think the main thing is we don't want to be landlords. I think we've decided that that is not a business that we should be in. So we're shifting our focus away from that responsibility. I'll let you continue then. I have
two things that also came up in town hall, or two properties that we kind of referenced to in our town hall meetings recently was the Queen Street, and that's currently occupied by our senior citizens. That's where they house. They have a kitchen there. That's where they do their day programming. And very early on, we went to the we went and visited our seniors down there, and we weren't displacing them, but we told them that we were considering putting that property on the market. And also another property, for an example, is this vacant land is out on 85. The county owns property that we're going to potentially put on the market here in a not so distant future. The goal is that these properties go back on the tax rolls, and as you stated earlier, Commissioner Scumai, that we're no longer landlords.
Yeah.
I think too, it helps our staff and ourselves focus on county government, instead of other entities that, we're in, but right now I feel that, we don't need to be, so.
Good. Currently, a couple positions that the county has created and we're looking to fulfill. Executive Director of Community and Economic Development. We recreated a position recently, the Director of Tourism. I personally want to thank Kevin Andrews. Kevin's been the tourist director. George, maybe you can speak. You know roughly how long?
Oh, goodness, I'd say at least 5, 6 years.
So Kevin's been our tourist director for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
done a good job. So we recreated that position. We want to thank Kevin's commitment to tourism in Armstrong County. And I know, Jason, you've worked with him closely because you serve as one of the board members for the Tourism Bureau.
Yeah, he's been there for probably the longest one I've been associated with and done a great job. So, but he's moved on to, I guess, greener pastures, and didn't know there was anything better than Armstrong County, but apparently there is. So, but which is fine. But it gives us an opportunity to look at the county as a whole, from our economic standpoint to tourism. And a lot of counties have kind of combined them under an umbrella to focus on bringing people in and using those resources. So I think it's a great opportunity for us. You hate to say it when somebody leaves, but we have to move on, and it gives us a chance to rethink things that we probably normally wouldn't have. Just been going with what we were doing and maybe addressing a few things, but now we have a better opportunity, I think, to take it up to the next level. So.
I think you bring up a good point, too. We try to look at things, curveballs that we receive from time to time, as opportunities rather than setbacks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, as much of an asset as Kevin was, we have identified the fact that tourism is an industry that we can help develop here within the county. And if we're talking about an executive director of community and economic development, they seem to go hand in hand, in my mind: tourism, economic development, so on and so forth. So,
Right.
just echoing what Commissioner Renshaw was stating.
And one other position that we're looking to fill is through economic development, a small business retention person. This person would focus on the existing businesses in Armstrong County and building those relationships and trying to meet their needs when those needs come up. So I know Mike Coonley, the current Executive Director of Economic Development, is currently wrapping up that interview process and evaluation process, and I'm sure he'll have a name to us here before long.
And these are positions that will help us focus on one of our main goals of coming into county government to help push for economic development here. So we get to assemble the right team, and I think we can take things to the next level there.
I'm glad you said that too. I mean, we've spent 9 months, I think, for the most part, trying to find ways to be more efficient, to rid ourselves of assets that we don't necessarily need, like some of the things we spoke about earlier. But really, I know that all three of us are very enthusiastic about trying to develop and grow the county at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And this should give us the opportunity.
We've been working on it. It's just, we have to kind of like trim the fat and look at some things and get the machine running as efficient as we can here. But now I think we're getting towards the end of the first year here, 8 months, 9 months into it. And I think we can really take what knowledge now that we've acquired and years of experience from everybody in the county and start to move on here at a better pace here a little bit.
Exactly.
And without question, I want to, if I can speak first of all, is that this has been an evaluation process when we looked at economic development. It's something all three of us, we ran on. We want Armstrong County to grow, but we just don't want to, we want to make sure our organization is strong and we have the right people there. And we spent the better part of these 8 months evaluating that process and identifying key positions that we may need to help us get that, fulfill that mission that we want to see at the end of the day. And it's going well. I think we've learned a lot, and we're taking what we learned and we're trying to develop that plan.
Absolutely.
In other county news, the county health center has been a big topic. There's been a lot of press about it. Just to inform you that the county of Armstrong has entered an agreement with Susquehanna Group Advisors. This contract allows the Susquehanna Group Advisors to lead an exploratory process for the sale of the Armstrong County Health Center. This RFP, or a request for proposal, went out this past Friday. And it does not necessarily mean the Board of Commissioners are going out looking at these proposals and are going to sell it. We're just doing an exploratory process right now. Since we've fielded a lot of phone calls since the beginning of the year, and to date about interest in purchasing the health center. And I know over the last 8 months we spent a lot of time looking at those numbers, and it's a huge deficit. And this is just one avenue that we're exploring. Do either of you want to care to?
Well, I think we're looking at every aspect of this process, and this one seems to get the most attention. We've looked at cost-saving matters that nobody really seems to focus on much, but this is close to a lot of people's hearts, and I can understand that, and so it is to ours. We have our the employees that take care of the individuals at the health center, so those are things that we're taking, into consideration very strongly. And I think the biggest thing is we're facing, these are things that we're facing. We have to, you can't kick the can down the street. We have to address them right now, and I think it's tough decisions, but I think hopefully with some conversations, some town hall meetings, people understand that we have the best interest here for our citizens, the employees, and everybody. So
I know from casual discussions with the two of you that we all feel very strongly about the workforce and the patients being the two top priorities in this consideration, and will remain so as we go through the process. Whether we decide to privatize it or not remains to be seen, as Commissioner Fabian mentioned. But to make an informed decision, you have to have all of the cards on the table, and that's just a set of cards that we need to have to consider, I guess, during the evaluation process.
Absolutely, well said, Commissioner. Clean and Green. Jason, any updates on that currently?
Well, the biggest thing is every year the commissioners will be questioned by the population of the county saying, hey, you're going to adjust the clean and green rates.
In May.
Excuse me, in May.
Yep.
And that is no longer the case.
We can all collectively clap.
Yeah. I think it's a breath of fresh air from everybody that works in the tax office, I think, too, from getting all the calls to the citizens. The only way that this can ever be changed is through a word that I don't even know what it is
don't say it.
Reassessment. I don't know what that is, but I've heard about it and I don't like it.
Butler County doesn't either.
Yeah, so, they don't do it, but I can assure you that we're going to do everything in what we can do to keep things running the same pace and where we're at right now. So it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air for the population here a little bit, and so we can breathe and won't have to have those questions all the time.
And that is a state sanctioned mandate. So
yeah, the state came down and put that in place, so it was kind of something out of our hands. And a lot of times what people don't realize is the state kind of governs a lot of things that we do, and our hands are tied. And that regulates us, like how we get our funds, how we spend some of them, what we have to keep in the county going. So we're kind of just like the chess player here, and moving some things around to play the game here a little bit and do the best we can with what we have and what we get. So, and there's some concerns that we brought up too at our CCAP conference, even to the governor. So,
absolutely.
Yes.
As far as the Belmont complex go, it did receive some increased revenue this summer. I don't know if either one of you want to take on what changes that the Board of Commissioners, permitted to go on there this summer, and what the end result was a plus $26,000 increase in revenue.
Yeah, and I'll let you speak as well, Commissioner Renshaw, but there were a lot of small steps that were taken, a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions about how we can better market that pool, and we took the feedback that we were given as far as extended hours and temperature of the water, the heat. And they seem to be significant enough issues that we took the chance on investing a little extra in repairing the heat and extending the hours, and lo and behold, I have to say I was genuinely impressed, because There were, again, it were a lot of small measures that added up to something that, well, it was rather a considerable increase.
And two, I would say too, and you're absolutely right, it seemed like heat and the extended hours had a lot to do with it. But in addition to those two things, looking back at the numbers, this has been the biggest increase in revenue in 5 years. Memberships were up the biggest increase in 5 years. And that's all the data that we have to go on is the past 5 years. And we were a little late to the table on this, and I think we've identified quite a few things moving into 2017 from a marketing standpoint that we could do to even enhance these numbers even more.
Oh, yeah. We had a really hot summer too, so and
Yeah,
dry.
yeah.
So I can tell you that one. But also too, we talked to some people in some of the meetings. The Belmont study, the I guess the funds we had left over, they did another study, which was a non-pool related study. So again, just getting another perspective on everything that we want to do and just laying all the cards on the table. But a lot of people say, hey, you need to market a little bit more. We didn't know about these things, and well, we just started this around April. I think the pool opened in May.
That's right.
So by
That's
the time,
the truth.
so I said, hey, we're on the right path, we're in the right direction. Okay, we'll just keep going this route. Things are starting to progress in the right. It takes time, you can't just come in. Politics, I've learned, goes slower than anything I've ever seen because. At the farm, I can just go out and do things. Here, I have to make sure we go through meetings, get approved, and get approval for this.
Yep.
Lord knows when
Check
we get to
code.
him.
There's
he'll
no
talk
farm
to us.
code, is there?
There's some. There's a lot of them out there. There are, so just a school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
Teachings,
Yeah.
So.
But you're right. Again, there's so many little things. You talked about the increase in the memberships. Thank you. Reallocating. You talk about marketing. We've always marketed. It was just determining how best to use those marketing dollars. And I know that there was some direction that was given along the way about new and different ways to allocate that money. I thought all of those, and I call them small, but all of those little things, combined made a difference. It took a lot of effort, though.
We started to implement some more things and I guess encourage more use of the empty facility, which is right next to the pool, which is the ice rink during the summer months. So, and we started some things this year, and hopefully, next year they'll progress a little bit further, and we'll keep working those aspects and utilizing the whole facility. So, not that it wasn't used before, but I think we can do a lot more with it.
I think there's some promising things on
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Jason, you bring up a good point, and we also looked at the current ice schedule when season, when ice or hockey or skating season's in, and how we could redo that schedule to increase revenues. And it does look like potentially it has a increase of anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 this year projected. But so just tweaking some things that were already.
And that was something I remember you identifying. I hadn't paid very close attention to how the schedule worked up there, to be honest with you. And I remember the first time you had mentioned, hey, what if we did this and moved this to here? Wouldn't it make more sense? And I was surprised that somebody hadn't thought of that sooner, to be quite honest. But I want to give you credit.
Well, I don't want to take credit. I know the hockey boosters.
All right, I'll take it.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I know the hockey boosters.
Yes, they did.
They felt like they didn't have an ear.
okay,
in our office.
so it came through,
Yeah.
but still,
It
it
was
was
heard.
something that was an adjustment that was made that was logical, and it will result in proceeds.
I think what you see here too is kind of like a philosophy they're applying to every aspect of the county government, is looking at where we can always improve things, help out, and make it run efficiently, and get the most effectiveness out of the dollars that we have, and keep things running. So that's the main goal here, and I think you can see throughout some of these topics here how we've been progressing in some of them. You have to look at every aspect of it. So we talked about the pool here, every aspect we looked at too. So we're applying the same philosophy to everything. So
It can be tiring sometimes.
Oh,
huh?
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So all right.
We do have 2 more town hall meetings. I'll give you those dates. It's this Thursday, September 22nd at Leechburg Fire Hall at 7 p.m. and also Thursday, September 29th at Manor Township Fire Hall. We've conducted 3. They've gone well. 2 of those meetings actually were public meetings, official public commissioner meetings. And the attendance has ranged from about 30 to 50 people roughly through those.
Yeah,
some good questions. I know we've been there till 9:30 on a lot of occasions, so it lasts about 2 hours. and hopefully, if you haven't made it out to any of the first three, by all means come out.
Encourage it, absolutely.
Yeah, I enjoy them because you get a chance to interact, and it's just pretty much like we have a lot of questions that we ask, and I found out that they've had about a lot of the same questions.
Right.
And we can answer them for them and get the information to them, and then we find a lot of questions that we can take back the next day
That's
and
true.
start, hammering them out. So
Yeah.
it kind of just makes the whole county work more efficiently, I think, with the people in the county having a voice, and it gives them a chance, and especially in the evenings with the public meetings. I know myself, sometimes it's tough to get to certain things that you need to, but having, hey, maybe there's certain times out of the year we'll do these. This is working out
Sure.
good. And I mean, we've had more attendance at these than we've had during the day, which
Right.
obviously, so I'm thinking, if anything, if one person shows up, it's worth it. We're giving people the opportunity, and that's the biggest thing. Some days you might get a lot of people, some days you won't, so when football season, Thursday night football, I was a little worried about that at first, but we're doing all right now, so.
It also gave us an opportunity, and this came up at the last meeting in Worthington, dispelling rumors. There were people in the crowd who had genuine concerns about things they had heard, and Jason, you often use the old whisper in one ear and down it's going to come out completely different down the other end.
Yeah.
And that seems to happen a lot in any place of work, really. And when you're dealing with controversial issues and things that are close to people's hearts, then you're bound to have that sort of thing crop up. And it was a good opportunity to address the misconceptions that were out there.
Absolutely. I know one thing we've talked about through the first 8 or 9 months is one of our biggest barriers is communicating with our county residents. Yes, we have the Leader Times. Yes, we have the Gataning paper, Talk of the Town. This facility is a great resource to get out on Facebook and our website, but still we're only hitting a small portion of people. So these town hall meetings do allow us the opportunity to get out into communities that might not have the chance to get to our public meetings, or have
Or catch us in
access to
print
the paper
or whatever.
or the internet access.
Yeah.
That brings it kind of wraps up our county news updates. We have a special guest today as we try to bring somebody on monthly to get you, the resident, a little more familiar with. And today we have asked Warden Schaefer, Philip Schaefer, to come and join us today to talk a little bit about the jail. Warden, can you tell us a little bit about maybe your background and what makes you, a warden, I guess?
Thank you. What makes me the warden now is my past history. I worked at Butler for 26 and a half years, but I started at the low end of the table there and worked my way through it. So I was an officer, and every officer position that was within the jail I worked. So whether it was records or working in the pod or working on intake, I worked every one of them. So I have a good background what the officers have to do. I also worked as a counselor in the treatment department and the treatment supervisor, and all the programs that are in Butler, most of them are there because of me. Because when I started, they didn't even have a counselor for almost a year, and then I went in there and we started a lot of the programs with the warden Gelati, mostly because he's the one that was forefront with a lot of the ideas. So we did very well and brought a lot of programs in, whether it's through a drug and alcohol mentoring program. We brought a lot of programs into the jail at Butler, and I'm trying to use that same approach here at Armstrong. I open my doors to all the providers, and we have been getting a very, very good response from them, and a lot of new programs are started.
Talk about what those programs do for not only the individuals, but for the taxpayers.
Well, the biggest part is that if the inmate, there's a window period, I believe, for every inmate that when that happens, they can actually be successful when they leave. And if you hit that window period with one of these programs, that person may not come back into jail. So we have now presently the drug and alcohol program that's running in the facility. I just got done speaking to for a domestic violence class that's going to be brought into our institution that started for females and males. So each one of those programs, we have an anger resolution class that I spoke to one of the individuals to start, and he went out and researched the information and actually brought the class back in on his own. And he's doing a tremendous job with the clients, and it's a very good class. And again, if you can get someone that has an anger problem and learn how to control it, maybe they won't be back in because of their anger. And that's usually what happens if you can hit them at the right time. So a lot of the programs we have has been very successful, and I just sat in on the tour that they do at the jail, and it's very well run too. Deborah Fazier does an excellent job. All the volunteers in that program does an excellent job. It was very nicely done and very well done.
You talk about the Drugs Kill Dreams
Drugs Kill
program?
Dreams,
Yes,
yes.
yeah,
It's an
really
excellent
good one.
program, yes.
I went through that when I was younger.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
early stages. Yeah, to the jail tour.
Yep.
At least I don't know if it was as elaborate as it is now. I was
Yeah,
a little
they do a
young.
nice
A couple
job with
days ago, So, but they did a reenactment at the one banquet we had, and it was pretty impressive.
It is.
Catches you. I mean,
It was.
I think it's something that everybody needs to go
Yep.
through, especially with everything we're facing nowadays.
Yep.
So.
Warden, I know I sat, as well as the commissioners, on pretty much every interview for the warden's position. I think what set how you set the bar so high was that you were very strong in policies and procedures. And I know as a voting member on our next warden, me personally, I was looking for someone that could provide that back, like come in and incorporate new policies, new procedures structurally, as far as a management system as well. And you were the clear choice in that. Can you speak to the policies and procedures that, or any changes you've done?
I will, and before I forget, I want to compliment our staff because we have made a lot of changes, and they take pride in their work and they do an excellent job, and that's why so far we've been successful with these changes. We've changed, just in the past 2 weeks, we moved the intake people into the intake area for the people that have to be classified, and that's for a safety reason for the inmate. We can view them better. It's more direct care versus the old way where it was a check every 30 minutes and that was it. Now they can actually see them visually, they can see them on camera, and if we also have a number of people in the same unit, so there's not just 2 people or 1 people, there's 4 or 5 people. So it works very well. But changing all that is very complicated when you're changing it in an institution. So we also have had a lot of changes in regards to the security of it. And as you know, now when individuals come in, we actually have our officer come out, meet the individuals, have them walk through the monitor, and then they have a wand now. We have a wand where they wand them if they go off in any area, if there's metal in their pocket or anything like that. So we've enhanced our security in every way that we have too, besides changing some of the policies. But our policies, like I said, are changing as we speak. Every time we have a policy committee that actually works on it, and we have meetings so that they can change them and implement them. So we've been moving on, even to do with our disciplinary process, how we proceed and have the hearings, then the lockdown, and if we have to do handcuff restriction, all that is written down specifically so that everybody does everything the same way each time. So I got to compliment, like I said, the staff, as many changes we've done, they've adjusted to it and they've done really well. Yeah. And right now, presently, we have another, like trainings for the officers. We have the self-defense tactics that's coming up. We sent a couple of officers to learn to be trained a trainer, and they're going to be holding a class. We just had our firearms training, which one of the deputy wardens and our lieutenant ran, and it was excellent. Everybody there complimented because it was that good. It was very, very well done, very professional. So we're putting in the extra time to do better training so our officers are even that much better. And they seem to enhance that. I mean, they like it. They like what's going on. And presently we have another training coming up, which is mental health first aid. And what that is so that the officers understand how to deal better with special needs people.
So what I hear, and just to clarify for our viewers, is increased amount of training with your staff, and revision or updating policies.
Yes. Yes.
Good. And I know it's something the prison board was, after the incident that the county occurred last year, it's something that we wanted to put some strength into leadership there, which I think you've delivered, and I appreciate your hard work and your effort.
Thank you.
And also to have somebody that has the experience you have come in and increase training, give our employees increased training opportunities, and also updating those policies. So thank you.
Sure.
Warden, can I just comment
Yeah.
on how valuable, you started off by talking about starting at the bottom and working in all the different areas. And, you know, found in management that anytime I've had that opportunity to work from the bottom up, you know the process, and you know when you're being snookered, right? And you know when there's a serious concern. And I just think that's so valuable. And I think it brings a great benefit to the position that you're in. So no, I applaud you for working your way through the trenches to get to this point.
Thank you.
I will tell you this too. Another thing that you know, historically, I come from the drug and alcohol mental health side. Can you tell our viewers just a rough makeup of what we're looking at as far as inmates? Is it criminals? Is it addicts? Is it mental health? Is it, you know, a special needs population, sexual offenders? I mean, if you had to give a rough estimate.
Well, it's a combination of all what you mentioned. The drug and alcohol, I would say probably 75 to 80%, probably 80% of them are in there for some drug or alcohol issue. But then that sometimes creates your criminals, because then they go out and rob your house to get the money to be able to buy those drugs. So it's a combination. And then we also have the mental health individuals that sometimes I think they end up in jail because they don't realize what they're doing, and it's technically a crime. So they get arrested and come in. And we're having a higher rate of the mental health individuals in the facilities now, which is a very needy population. So your staff have to adjust to that too. So the staff is different than it was before. Before you could just be a correction officer and just worry about security. Now you have to adjust and adapt, and you got to be a good communicator. You got to be able to know each population that you're dealing with and how you're talking to them, because everyone reacts differently. So if you're dealing with a mental health individual, you might talk one way to them. If you're dealing with another individual, you might talk another way to them, just because you have to adjust a little bit more to them. So your communication is very important as an officer now.
And I think too, coming from the treatment side of things historically, I mean, that's been my past profession, and having an idea of what the population is in the jail, but not specifically knowing. For me, looking through your resume, I've seen a lot of experience with treatment in the jail setting, and I thought that was appealing, besides your strong management skills and policies and procedures strength. So, you know, can you tell our viewers about what's being implemented right now as far as to combat the addicts that are in there, or the mental health?
Well, actually,
inmates?
I'm sorry about that. We increased the hours for our psychiatric care, you know, for them to come in and evaluate people because of the mental health. I also spoke to the county in regards to maybe seeing what we can do for a program for just specifically mental health inmates. Because you have drug and alcohol, but you also have mental health, and I think they're kind of separate, and deal with them individually, and sometimes there is a combination of both, but you need to deal with one and then you deal with another one. So hopefully we can get more to do with the mental health part of it. But drug and alcohol right now, they're in there doing assessments, evaluations on individuals, trying to work a program that they have just started out with, and eventually, again, that window period, if you get that window period for the inmate, and they are wanting to help and you get it, then a lot of times that individual can be successful. But you don't want to miss that, and then they go back to using again. So it's very difficult. Each person kind of reacts differently to each situation. So one person might do well in a group setting, another person might do well individually to do drug and alcohol. And again, the same process with if they need to be on medication. You know, if one medication might work, another medication for another person might work. So it's all individualized. You almost have to deal with them individually, see what works.
Medications oftentimes do not present any effects for days and sometimes weeks, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that compounds the problem. There's so many variables that must go into evaluating these people.
Yeah. Well, it is difficult because you're bringing an individual off the street that you might not know a whole lot about, and then you have to figure them out and know what they need, and then go from there.
And Warden, with the drug and alcohol treatment, it seems to be, my understanding, we've always had the mental health, psychiatry work in the jail, but we've had an absence since I think 2007, 2008 with drug and alcohol treatment. So it's nice to see that back in the county jail, where it's definitely needed without doubt. Something we've talked before on this program is the use of the jail kitchen. What have you implemented, if anything, there?
Well, again, this is where we changed a lot of our policies in regards to how we handle the situation. So prior to our changes, the provider would bring the food in to the end of the doorway, and then the inmates would gather it up and take it in, and that was one of the issues that we wanted to change for security and contraband. So what we do now is everything is made up, instead of being on trays individually, when it comes in, it's made up into large pots and pans, and the food's in there. They bring it into our institution, bring it into the kitchen, and that's where our kitchen people then actually put it into the trays and serve it.
And when you say our kitchen people, you mean inmates?
Inmates, yeah. The inmates, instead of them going out and being a risk, they're actually in the kitchen, which we haven't used in a while, and we got it all fixed up, and the guy complimenting the maintenance people there because they got the
I want to clear, when you say a while, the kitchen's never been used.
Never been used, okay. Well, I wasn't
Since
positive.
it was brand new when you went in.
But
So-
they have adjusted everything, and again, our officers are in there and out, and the providers, the nutrition has done an excellent job, and now it runs like clockwork. It's very nice. Then the trays stay there, they get cleaned in the facility, they go through the dishwasher, they spray down everything, our carts and everything are sprayed down. It's very well organized right now, and it's working very well. At the beginning, it took about a week or two to figure out how we're doing it.
Yeah.
But since then, it's run very well. And then we don't have to worry about the security issue or the contraband.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also, too, we had discussed earlier, it helps you to evaluate those inmates and see how good of a worker they would be for the system. If something else would ever come up again, we can evaluate them in-house for maybe 30 days or more, whatever you think, and then say, okay, they can graduate to the next step. If you know,
Yep.
but
And
right
that's
now
excellent.
we have one step.
When you say, Commissioner Armstrong, when you say the next step, you mean this board considering with the prison board of doing work release?
Yeah, we had
or
the-
having
Outside,
itmates
yeah.
outside the jail.
Outside the jail. Yeah,
You
and
know,
you're correct on what you're saying, and that's an excellent point, because that's exactly what we want to do. I mean, the counselor, we have a new counselor, Lisa, and she made up the guidelines. We went over and reviewed it, changed it, but we have guidelines just to get in the kitchen. So the next step, if it is approved for them to work outside, there'd be a new set of guidelines for that, and then we'd be able to do that. But you're right, we would be able to pick from that group then who's a good worker and move them forward.
Yes.
So an inmate's just not coming into the jail and being turned on a program that could go outside the
No.
jail just
Yeah.
because he's had he's been a good worker or she's been a good
Yeah.
worker in the past.
Yeah.
There's a process that they're going to start over
Yeah.
from square one every time they come in.
Yep,
I
that's
think
correct.
it's important to point out, too, you're giving people hope. You're giving people a chance to rehabilitate themselves through these programs,
Yes.
prove themselves, so on and so forth. That gives them self-worth. That's all positive. And I know Commissioner Fabian can speak much more to this than I can, but the importance of, self-worth and things like that play a big part, I imagine, in addiction and self-medication, things like that.
Well, you can pick up a skill that maybe you never had
That's
before, and
true.
some things, and if you do get out, maybe you can
Yeah.
get on the right path, and somebody give you an opportunity.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
Something you wouldn't really probably have the opportunity. We didn't have it before.
Yep.
That's
So-
true.
And I think as these programs get up and running, they're new to you, they're new to the jail. They haven't been around in a while. So I'm actually encouraged where we are here,
Yes.
9 months into your hire, and us as a board of commissioners with the jail, and I'm looking forward to growing and enhancing as over the next couple of years.
It just struck me when you said 9 months, I'm thinking,
Wow.
yeah, it's only been 9 months and so many positive changes.
Absolutely.
And I'm not taking credit at all. I'm saying great work,
And I agree with you. I'm excited about it, too.
Anything else you'd like to add as far as updates, programming, or anything going on?
The only thing I would add is I am open to, people with ideas, and if there's programs or anything like that that might be applicable for the jail, I'd consider it. And again, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm talking about doing possibly a mentoring program within the facility. I just need to figure out how we're going to do it. But I don't want to do, 50 things at one. It becomes overwhelming sometimes.
Waters down the end
Yeah.
a little bit.
So I try to keep it at a pace that's real. So I'm trying to do that, but I am interested if people have ideas and they might be able to provide some help at the jail, that's fine.
Another thing I wanted to highlight, this came to my mind, I actually wrote their names down through the interview process. Obviously you were a clear-cut choice, but also the acting warden, Matt Rufner, is still at the jail in a deputy capacity.
Yes.
And Doug McCauley, who also interviewed, has come aboard our team out there as an assistant deputy warden. So really, we have somebody with warden experience. Obviously, you've had deputy warden experience. You are our leader out there. You're a warden, but we have two guys that have had deputy or grooming, I guess, yes, and some experience.
Yeah.
So we have a strong team out there that I feel.
I totally agree with you. The administrative team is very strong, and again, the staff out there have been very supportive in doing these programs and changing the policies and that. So we're in good shape right now out there.
Good.
Yeah.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
I think it's one of our. I think, speaking for you, I feel a lot of questions about the incident and the status of the jail, and it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
It was a serious issue, and I think it's something that the prison board and us being new commissioners tackled, and it's been a 180 for sure out there.
The scenario that that well, I don't want to say permitted or allowed that opportunity, or that tragedy, I shouldn't say it's opportunity, that tragedy, it's been eliminated as I understand it. The doors close now.
Yeah, there's no
before the
opportunity.
inmates come to
And they went
collect.
outside to grab the trays.
Right, before that was,
Yeah.
that's one simple procedure alone
Yeah.
was, well, worth its weight.
Well, we did two things though. Besides eliminating that situation, we're also on a positive where our inmates are now getting experience working in the kitchen, and like I said, that they earn something towards
Sure.
themselves, and also gives them experience and possibility at a later date if we start doing something on the outside, might earn them a way to do something on the
Sure.
outside. So it's a very positive thing that we have going on right now. We have 6 individuals every day in there, but there's actually a total of about 10 inmates because they rotate.
Good.
So it works out very well in a positive way, besides eliminating the obvious.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. That concludes the Armstrong County monthly update. Warden, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
gentlemen,
Appreciate
as
your
always,
time.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you,
great
George.
doing this with you.
Thanks, pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.